welcome back, my nomads. Welcome back to another Bitcast. I'm back here with Zach. What's going on, Zach?
Hey man, how's your weekend going?
Oh, you froze. Oh, say that again.
Told you. All right. I said, hey, how's your weekend going?
Oh, it's going good. I saw a couple of movies. I saw Monkey Man.
Yeah. How was that? I have that on my list.
It was alright. It was alright. It's Dev Patel's directorial debut. He also stars in it. He wrote it, I think. And it was supposed to go on Netflix, and then Jordan Peele saw a run of it, and he decided to buy it so that it could get a theatrical release. And it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was like John Wick, like Dev Patel. I saw called it Indian John Wick himself, and he said he wanted to. He thought the action genre has kind of been bastardized, and he wanted to bring some substance to it. He wanted to bring real trauma to the life of the protagonist to show why he wanted revenge and stuff. It was pretty good. I would say you should watch it. I'm just not a fan of claustrophobic, fast paced directing styles.
Mm-hmm.
So like the directing style where like the camera's so close to everything that it's on, the subjects and the people talking and the just anything that's in frame is so close and it cuts to this, cuts to this. And when the movie was playing, I was like, oh, so this is how it's going to be, and then it's going to calm down. But no, that was just how the movie was. But I will say in the third act, it did calm down a little bit, but it was still kind of like all over the place and stuff. And when I watch a martial arts film, I would like to see wide shots of the fighting with the good choreography. But all in all, I think it was a good film that people should check out. It was very interesting. You know.
I feel like when you have action stuff, it only like John Wick seems to be the kind of the top thing, right? Where everyone kind of mimics. And I just don't
Well,
want to get the I don't want to get the genre where it's already kind of dead as it is, come back and it's just the same thing and it's just different iterations of it.
well, the thing about John Wick is John Wick, which was made by stuntmen and people who love action cinema, was just taking notes from the great films of the past, where we pretty much figured out what to do with action scenes. Give us wide shots, fast pace. I mean, but like something about the West that just can't get fight scenes right. We talked about Roadhouse last week,
Mm,
and they tried to reinvent the wheel for fight scenes, and it didn't work. I'm like,
doesn't
why are
work.
you doing
Yeah.
CGI doubles for a fight scene? Like, we already know if you put the camera in the right spot, it makes it look like the punch hits. Like, you don't need to make CGI doubles with people and actually have them hit themselves for one frame. But
Unless
yeah,
it's The
like,
Godfather, you can tell like some of the punches were kind of
oh
like
yeah.
in James Caan's scene. So a couple parts of the scene is like fake, but some of it's real because they didn't
Hmm.
like each other. So like when he like kicked him across the face and hit him with the trash can lid, that was real, right? But
Right.
everything else, you're like, dang man, that's the shot angle of that like was so bad. You can obviously tell he was like three
Yeah.
inches.
Like, he was like 3 inches, and the guy was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
like some Broadway acting fight scene.
yeah.
But I mean, we pretty much know what it takes to make good fight scenes. It's just these Hollywood, studios don't want to do it the right way. But I thought Dev Patel's movie was good. The fight scenes were pretty good, especially in the third act. I would just like to see more. I don't know if it was because of budget constraints. I know for some shots they had to use iPhones and GoPros because of budget cuts. Um,
But that's
I
okay
don't know
though,
if
because they're pretty quality.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know if it was just the jitters of a new director who just wants to keep everybody engaged, so he's changing the frame every 3 to 5 seconds or something. But it was good. I do think people should check it out, and I actually would watch it again. You know. Did you see any movies lately?
Let's see. Yeah, Kung Fu Panda 4.
Well, you saw that. I've only seen the first one.
They're good. They're very well done.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's some. I'm glad you said that because I heard the villain in this was in Kung Fu Panda 4 was dope. What is it about animated films that just get villains right? Like
yeah,
they just get
every
them
single
good.
villain. So the villains in this, the first one's Ian McShane, and then the next one's Gary Oldman, and then this
Mm.
one is Viola Davis. Is that her name?
Viola
Viola.
Davis.
Yeah, she
Oh,
plays
word.
the chameleon who can transform into all the other villains and stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty well done. I like how it's not like Shrek where it kind of was beating a dead horse. You know, it's like okay, these are good.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
and it sails off of the sunset the right way. You know what I mean?
After the second Shrek, it was just downhill from there. They were just milking that thing, milking it. Did you see the last Puss in Boots movie?
No.
It has one of the greatest villains. Period. Like the way they build up Puss in Boots, and then they introduce the villain. Because you can do that. Like a good example is like God of War, the remake in 2018. it's it's a trick where you build up your protagonist as such a badass. He's so good at what he does. He can beat anybody up, and then along comes a stranger who's the villain. The protagonist doesn't know it at first, and he's like, "Yo, step off," and then it's like, "Bang!" Like this guy just knocks you on your ass. Like Puss in Boots does that. The sequel, I think it's called Last Wish, and the villain is dope. You should definitely check that out if you get a chance. Was it you I was talking to who we were talking about the Incredibles, and it was the villain from the Incredible. I think his name is Syndrome. I
Hmm.
want to say
Yes, it was. Yeah,
like
we were talking
who
about him.
gives like one of the best supervillain lines. Like at that time, I think Incredibles was like '09 or something like that.
Oh, 4.
Yeah, yeah, much earlier. Um, where he's just like, oh, now you're sorry because I'm a threat,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
he just goes on
And
this
then he's like, "You
monologue.
catch me monologuing,"
Oh,
and he's
oh,
like,
you sly dog.
"Yeah," and he like tosses him and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yo, I mean, he was a great villain. Even his plan, he's like, when everybody's super, nobody's super. Like his whole thing was dope, man. I think to this day, The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie ever made. So we'll see how this new one comes out.
I haven't really watched too many movies. Well, actually, let me check because it's been a busy week. But I've rewatched all of Johnny Bravo, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Rocco's
Oh my
Modern
gosh.
Life.
Oh my gosh.
What? What's
Wow.
dude? You look at these cartoons like us growing up with them and stuff. You're like, man, there's no way these would be out now. There's no way.
I don't know. Hear me out because I was I was looking at Baby Shark because I was like, oh, this would be a nice show to show my daughter. They had Cardi B on there on Baby Shark. I'm
Mm.
like, I'm like, why is Cardi B on a kids show? She's famous for showing her ass and talking about doing things in private with men that she shouldn't be talking about. She's on record saying she used to be a stripper who used to rob men. Like, come on. And she's on a kid show? Come on, man. I was like, nah, I'm good, man. Some of these
Well,
shows, I'm like,
it's funny because cursing and stuff is off limits, but sexual innuendos and stuff like that's okay now.
oh, well, Dan Snyder, we can thank for that. I don't know if you saw Quiet on Set, but yeah, Dan Snyder is the king of sexual innuendos and kid shows. Like, wow, man. And he got rehired over and over again.
Made of
But hey,
money.
yeah,
That's
yeah, I mean,
who cares otherwise? Like that's just how that's what the line of thinking was. Like you make money and keep your stuff to yourself as long as you don't get caught. Then who cares?
I mean, now let's be clear. He wasn't the guy who was touching the kids. That was somebody else. But he was doing some unsightly things that you shouldn't do with people who are your
Well,
coworkers, especially if
Drake
they're
Bell
kids.
says otherwise.
Now, remember, well, at least according to the show Quiet on Set, Drake Bell said that's the only person who was with me, who was supporting me during that whole thing. It was Brian Peck who was sexually assaulting Drake Bell. And after he was convicted, he got rehired to do Zach and Cody's Sweet Life. So the
Nuts.
wheel keeps turning. I thought it was interesting that Disney didn't get put on the hot seat because Disney was the one that rehired Brian Peck for the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. If I'm thinking correctly, that was a Disney show, not a
It
Nickelodeon show.
was. It was a Disney show. Yes.
So, it's like Nickelodeon was in the hot seat for that whole documentary, but I'm like, hey, this guy was hired by Disney after he was a known sexual offender. That was one of his the court that was one of his stipulations that the court was like, hey, you're getting convicted and you have to register as a uh, uh, sex offender. I'm like, okay, bro. And not just any sexual offender with young children, you know. So, I mean, that took a turn, but let's move on. I saw Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about this. That came out in 04, 05.
No
Ridley
way.
Scott picture.
I
Yeah,
thought it
hey,
was like
04.
2007 or 8 or something.
Might have been. Might have been.
Because
But
Orlando Bloom it was actually '05. You're right. Because he was just so busy with Pirates of the Caribbean, I didn't know he had the time to.
yeah, he had Lord of the Rings, then Troy,
Well, Lord of the
then
Rings, he
Kingdom of
wasn't.
Heaven.
They filmed that in like the mid '90s, so he was already
Yeah, yeah.
he
So
was
he
done
he
being
had
busy.
he had Troy right before Kingdom of Heaven. I read about that because he got the script for Kingdom of Heaven. He's like, I don't want to do another historic uh, war movie. And then he was like, oh, I get to work with Ridley Scott. Never mind, I'll do it. You know, and this was before, ladies and gentlemen, before Ridley Scott went senile. So it was a good movie. A movie that they said the Muslim community commended Scott for not portraying them um, as like the villains or whatever. I think the movie portrayed both sides in a good light, and I do think the director's cut is way better. And it was like 3 hours and 9 minutes. Some things might have been able to be trimmed, but probably it could have only been trimmed to like the Lord of the Rings runtime, 2 hours and 58 minutes. Like the first two Lord of the Rings had that famous 2 hours and 58 minutes on the dot runtime. You could
It's
have
like gasoline,
put it
where
to
it's
that.
9/10 of a cent. It's like if you're below that 3 hours, you're safe.
Exactly. So yeah, I thought it was dope, man. I thought that was a good movie. Orlando Bloom used to be on fire back in the day. He was that guy, and I didn't even realize it until I go back and watch the movies. I'm like, oh, all of these came out around in the early 2000s. I didn't realize that.
He doesn't really do
But
much anymore, does he?
he's on that show. Why did I want to say Peaky Blinders? That is not the right show. Um, the show that I actually like, Carnival Row, on Amazon Prime. It's a good show. You should definitely check it out. But he's on that, and he's doing a. I see that he's doing a documentary show about him doing like survivalist stuff in the wild. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know he liked that stuff. So yeah, I mean, he's pretty busy, but back in the day, he was that guy. I
Did you
guess he
know
wanted to
Josh
fall back from
Duhamel
the
is a
spotlight.
doomsday prepper?
Interesting. Really? No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you
I guess that's why he doesn't work as much. Yeah. Shoot.
can you imagine?
But
It's like, well, I mean, it's like, I mean, that takes your entire life away.
oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure. My
Just
whole thing is, man, when the bombs fall, I just want to be in the radius so I can just go out and bang. You know, just kill me there, because whoever survives that, it's going to be way worse for the people who survive.
What about the moon getting hurled into Earth by some kind of like, alien thing where like, who cares? Let's just destroy everything.
Oh, well, in that case, we all die. It's all good. I'm dead. I'm straight. Who cares? People are like, don't you want to survive? No. Why? Haven't you watched any, like, end of the world movies? Haven't you watched that movie on Netflix we talked about with Mahershala Ali and Ethan Hawke and stuff? Haven't you watched, like, Mad Max and stuff like that? No,
There
just,
needs to be a really good end of the world movie about that stuff, like a good one.
you don't think we got good ones?
Not recently, no.
Yeah, not recently. Are you going to see Furiosa?
No.
It's funny because I thought Mad Max Fury Road was such a great movie.
It
Like,
was okay.
almost flawless in my opinion. And I see Furiosa the trailer, and I'm just like, I don't know
Oh,
why. I'm just not interested.
Mel Gibson needs to come back to Mad Max, and I'll be okay with it.
Isn't he too old?
Who cares?
Unless he's like an older Mad Max that's passing the
They're
torch
doing
off to
Lethal
somebody
Weapon
else.
5 or whatever, and him and Danny Glover are in it, and they're like,
Stop.
150.
Are you serious?
Swear to God.
You stop. First of all, I thought it was crazy that they're doing a Bad Boys 4. Why in the hell are they doing a Bad Boys 4? Did you see the trailer for that?
No, I don't need to see it.
It's actually a good trailer. I know trailers can be misleading, but it was like
I
it took me back to early 2000s when Bad Boys 2 came out, and I'm like, yo,
I don't
I'm
know if
all
I can
for
see
it.
Will Smith the same because he's been emasculated from a million different ways, and it's just like, how can I see him in a movie now?
I mean, this is where we come to the question: can you separate the art from the artist?
No, not
And
with this.
now,
It's
when it
hard.
comes to like an Ezra Miller type person, yeah, I can separate the art from the artist.
Well,
Well, actually,
it's
no, I can't. I
because
can't.
you're building your brand on a certain way, right? And if you're
Mm-hmm.
acting a certain way and on screen, kind of like what Arnold and Sly did. What if Sly and Arnold were just complete fakes? Would anyone have seen their movies? No.
No, because back in the day, I mean, those bodybuilder type guys were why they got hired. Like now we find any schlup of an actor that we want, and we inject them with a whole bunch of stuff and give them muscles in 6 weeks, and then we pretend like they're action guys. But back in the day, you couldn't do that. You had to hire the Dolph Lundgrens, the Lou Ferrignos, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers. You couldn't fake that stuff back in the day. I mean, Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger, like they should have done like a buddy cop type of movie, man. Like, like they both have a bunch of charisma. Arnold could barely talk, but they both have great charisma. They could have done something
I
together.
mean, Arnold could talk. It's just how much subtitles do you want?
I wonder how many times they had to change the lines because he can't pronounce certain things. Like, all right, just change this. Don't call it a helicopter. Call it a chopper. Get to the chopper. Arnold can't say helicopter, so we got to change it. Yeah, that would have been awesome, man. Seeing them together. R.I.P. Carl Weathers, man. That sucks. Sucks. Well, he won't be in the Mandalorian movie. He dodged a bullet there. Yeah.
Jeez. Let's talk about
Did
OJ
you?
real fast then. Dang.
Oh, is it safe to say R.I.P. to OJ, or is it
He
still
now,
taboo?
he now gets a chance to, since he's meeting God, he can ask God who really did it now. And he can finally rest in peace that way. Come to find
I
out it
mean,
was him
there's
all along, and he's shocked, right?
and he's shocked. Like, I did what?
Exactly.
Spoiler alert: you are the killer. He was
Right,
the killer the whole time.
right. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, touchy subject.
You can blame the 1970 Bills for that, by the way. So there's always just been this. So the 1970 Bills were so bad they got the first pick, right? And then they drafted
Hmm.
OJ Simpson. They were so close to winning one game. If they won one game, they would have avoided. OJ would have gone to whoever it was, ahead of them.
Right.
And OJ and his you know dead wife, they met in Buffalo. So if he was never drafted in Buffalo, he never would have met her. He never would have killed her, which means Robert Kardashian never would have been famous, and Kim Kardashian never would have been famous.
Mm.
So we can
Damn.
blame the entire city of Buffalo for the fact that Kim Kardashian is famous.
Dear gosh. I think Kim still would have made that tape and she still would have got, this famous.
But they wouldn't have been. She wouldn't have been famous. No way, because her dad was a famous lawyer. So like she already had the spotlight. They had the money. There's no way she would have been famous at that point. Who would have talked to her?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know.
It is like the first like real sex tape of all time too. So
The first big one that made it to the top because her mom was the manager and, made all
leaked
those
it.
deals for her. And she edited it herself, Oh.
Can you imagine?
No. that's that's odd. Who would pimp out their own daughter like that? Like, editing your own daughter's sex tape so that your whole family becomes famous. I mean, talk about selling your soul. Like, gee.
That's a pretty deep debt, I think.
Oh, this.
So I'm kind of
But
curious. Why isn't there? I feel like now you just got reality TV, which isn't real anyway, and you got
mhm.
these real crappy TV on like cable network shows. I don't even watch any cable network shows.
Nah,
None. I don't watch
nah,
any.
nah.
They're so
I
bad.
think, I think that there will be a resurgence of cable network watching because of how the streaming ecosystem is just getting ridiculous.
Yeah,
Uh,
pricing and all that. Yeah.
for example, there's three free streaming platforms that are top: Tubi, Freevee, and Roku. Their numbers are starting to spike because people are just getting rid of the paid streaming services. I will say, lately I've been watching them myself because they're getting some good stuff on their platforms.
Do you have a Samsung TV?
I do, but I don't use the interface. I use a Roku box.
Okay, the interface. There's this thing called Samsung TV Plus.
Oh yes, I
I do
remember
watch
it.
that sometimes just because it randomly like pops up when I'm like changing the source, and it has a Hell's Kitchen channel. I watch
No
that,
way, I would watch that. I would watch that.
and
My
that's
wife has
free.
got me into that stuff. Get out of here, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah, dude.
crazy that Samsung's TV is free, man. Like, it might be because of my age, but there was a time where you had to surf channels to find something interesting, and you just might stumble on something that you never would have thought you would have watched. But you're like, it's on, so I'm gonna watch it. And you're like, oh man, I gotta look this movie up. Like, I gotta see it from the beginning. You schedule the thing, you try to see when it comes on again, and you might flip to another thing and come back. Like, you don't have that anymore. Like, sometimes you just sit down and you're like, I want to watch something, but I don't know what to watch. But I have to pick something because the streaming services just don't have stuff playing. So I gotta figure out something. Like, what do I
Yeah.
want to watch? Maybe I'll watch this.
See,
And it
that's
turns
what I
out you
do
don't
with
want to watch
my.
it.
That's what I do with my little thing where I have every country cable. So
Mm.
sometimes I just go into foreign channels and I start looking at it. I'm like, okay, this is. Sometimes watching Denmark cable television is very fulfilling.
Word. Do you watch with subtitles or do
Oh
you
yeah, I
you
watch it
just
with
watch
English
it?
subtitles. Yeah, I just
Oh, okay. I thought you were just watching it off the cuff, like they're speaking a different language. You're like, oh, this is interesting.
Well, I mean, you should give it a shot. Like, I feel like foreign stuff is just so it's just so different what they find entertaining, right? And that's a part of the reason why Europe and Asia in particular just eat well, Western Europe eat U.S. media up so much because their stuff's really bad.
It's like junk food.
No, man, like seriously, like you go to like France or something, like you see like American TV on mostly with you know it's in English. Most people speak English, so it's like they don't even have it in the subtitles or in the different language.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know some people who learned how to speak English just by watching um, American content on in their home country. And they just kept watching like Ren and
Isn't that
Stimpy
crazy?
and learned English. Like that's insane, man.
So what
Like,
do you think
dang, I
about
couldn't
that? Like,
imagine.
what what makes our stuff so engrossing?
Um, I think it's because in different cultures, like America is like the flash and the flash and pomp, the flash and pomp, if you want to say. Like we're all about the big, the bang, the flashiness. Whereas in
Yeah,
some
yeah,
countries, let's use Japan for example. You know, Japan, they still bow, they still want to honor their families. I mean, they're not going around doing seppuku, not that I know of, but they still want to, we're doing this for the honor of the family. Da, 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 da. Whereas, in America, we're not as repressed. Like you're encouraged to dream in America, so we try to think of things like fantasy. We try to think of things to give our minds to escape. So with all this technology that we have, with all these resources, we make some of the greatest pretend stories, that people are entertained with. And so even if those other countries don't want to admit it, they want escapism too. And so they turn to our stuff, you
right.
know.
Same
So
with food.
I think that's where
It's not just media. It's food. By the way, have you given the Whopper the other shot yet?
I have not yet. I haven't been to Burger King in a minute. I was going to go when I saw because there's a Burger King right near the theater for Monkey Man, but I was like, nah, I'm just gonna try to stay healthy. Eat my little
Well,
Fig Newton.
Whoppers are flame broiled. It's really healthy for you.
I don't think they're broiled anymore. I remember when we was growing up, Burger King burgers taste like they came straight off the grill, bro. Now it's like, they just taste like they were prepackaged and heated up in a microwave, just like every other fast food place.
That's why I like Taco Bell so much.
Oh, Taco is probably the worst
No,
place to
what do you
eat,
mean?
man.
No, dude, because
They
it's
can't even legally call their meat meat.
no, it's oatmeal, but that's healthy for you. They
I
use
can't
oatmeal
believe that.
mix. Yeah,
I can't believe that.
yeah, bro. It's oatmeal. It's
You're
oatmeal
gonna make me
mix.
go back to Taco Bell. Don't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Don't.
Well, I'm gonna get Taco Bell right after this, dude. Tell you what.
Jeez,
Yeah, man.
Jesus. But speaking of uh, Japanese culture, I
Nazis.
gotta say, have you noticed? Have you noticed there's trends going on in Hollywood where, like years ago, it was AI/robots, then it was zombies,
Yeah,
then it was Viking stuff, and now it's Japanese stuff with
yeah.
Tokyo Vice, with Shogun. I just saw an article that said they're making a movie out of the black samurai in history. I forgot his name, but the real slave who
Tavarius White.
became who?
Tavarius White.
Get out of here. But they're making a black samurai movie. Um, I mean, even in video games, Rise of the Ronin, Ghost of Tsushima is coming back to PC.
There seems to be a resurgence of that stuff lately.
So my question to you is, what do you think the next trend will be from robots to zombies to Vikings to samurai. Samurai in Japanese culture. What do you think the next trend might be?
You ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
Giant bugs.
That's a good guess. I thought you were gonna say something weird, but no, that's a good guess. With Helldivers, there's a game that my godsons played. It's about like huge bugs on their phones. And Helldivers, what's it called? Starship Troopers is getting popular again because of Helldivers. That's a good pick, man.
Uh,
I used to watch the Starship Troopers show as a kid. It was
I,
computer
I
animated.
I think it's going to be robots again because with this
Okay.
AI thing, I think it's just going to be like
True.
with robots,
True.
and you're starting to see like that stuff starts popping up when you see it in real life or people talk about it. You're like, oh AI, let's really focus on that. And robots and that type of thing. I think it's going to be.
True. True. I do feel as though the AI threat,
We had
quote unquote,
viruses for a
has
little
kind
bit
of
too.
dissipated.
You had
We had what?
diseases, and you had like that whole disease pandemic
Oh
freaked
yeah.
out in the mid 2000s for a hot second too
Oh yeah,
because of
yeah. That was true. Yeah, 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 yeah. And it tried to resurface um during the pandemic, but people wasn't having it. It's like we want stuff to escape. Why are you making pandemic stuff?
yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, why are you being lazy? Like, oh, we're in a pandemic, so let's make pandemic content. No, it's no.
not
Why?
how that
Why would
works.
anybody want that? There's people dying. Like, why would anybody want that? Smart guy, But yeah, that's true. In the mid 2000s, it was like pandemic movies back to back,
Contagion.
and I think that led into the zombie craze too.
Yes.
Like, I think that was before the zombie craze, and
You had
then
the happening, you had contagion, you had stuff like that going on.
yeah, there's an out. Oh no, Outbreak was older. But yeah, yeah, there was definitely a pandemic thing going on too. But I do think we will circle around back to like
Robot.
AI
yeah,
robot type stuff,
yeah.
like because it's been a while, and I just saw that they announced there might be another Terminator movie coming out, and I'm like,
Who's who even owns the rights to that right now? Because who's they?
Linda Hamilton got part ownership through the divorce.
Yeah, yeah, but who's the studio for that? She hasn't owned a studio
Oh,
because of the divorce.
that's a good question. I can't remember. I do remember that after this Terminator 2, James Cameron left the franchise. Like he just was like, "I'm
Yeah,
going."
and they all
He,
got bad.
yeah, because Lyndall Hamilton was trying to keep it alive, and I'm like, "Y'all don't get it. The key to Terminator was James Cameron, so you gotta keep him. You should have just let it die." And they did TV shows, they did movies, just wasn't working out. The last movie, even though he was involved, he didn't do it. He just produced it. It was still a failure, man. It was. I mean, clearly a movie with an agenda. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch it if you want. I forgot the name of it. It doesn't matter. Terminator something.
Are you going to see the
Even
new
Arnold coming
Superman?
back.
Speaking of, like, with the change of, I guess it's like the handing of the torch, so to speak, forcefully.
I'm. I'll probably check it out of curiosity. I'm not a Superman fan, nor do I think what um James Gunn is doing is smart, but he might surprise us. You know, I feel like I feel like Superman fans have been asking for a good Superman movie ever since Man of Steel.
Which was awesome.
Um, yes, it's probably the best DC movie they've had, best DC universe movie they've ever done. Um, but um, like he's putting everything into this one Superman movie. He's putting every DC character in there, and I'm like, but people just want a good Superman movie. And if you're doing that and you're only having all these characters in for one or two scenes, then you're just doing what all those other studios tried to do,
And failed.
which was yeah, and failed. Tried to make their own universe, cast all the parts up front, and then it falls through. It's uh, I don't know, bro. And
Well,
I
there's a
hope
villain
he gets
issue.
a
Like
co-writer.
General Zod was such a good villain, right? And I'm like, why can't
He
you just have like something as simple as that, like revenge? That's an easy, like you
So
can't do
yeah,
that.
like that's the one thing I loved about Man of Steel is for years. Remember Superman Returns
Hmm.
by the director Bryan Singer, the guy who was doing, diddling stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah,
He
Christopher, Christopher
Brandon
Roth,
Routh,
Brendan Routh's character, right? He was the one that
who I still think is one of the best after Christopher Reed, Clark Kent slash Superman. Um, but he that movie I was so disappointed. That came out in 2006. I remember this. 2006, and I was thinking, why in 2006 do we have all this technology, but the villain for this movie is just a guy in a suit with no mechs, no nothing. He's
I
not
liked
fighting
Kevin
anybody.
Spacey as Lex Luthor,
Yeah, he was great, but I'm like, where's the super battles? There's no super battles. It's literally just
but Lex
same
Luthor is
old.
one
Like
of his biggest villain.
I know,
You
but they
know,
could have gave him. They could have gave us the Lex Luthor from the comics, where he builds a mech suit that's he's able to like fight against Superman, or you could have even had him create a clone of Superman and him fight him. You still could have had Lex Luthor in there with another villain that Superman could go toe to toe with, but they didn't have it. Man
right,
of
right.
Steel gave us that, and I thought that was great. And then there was no Man of Steel follow up. There was just the DCEU with their mismatched storytelling and horrible stuff going on. So the fans are due. And I'm not a fan of Superman. The fans are due for a good Superman movie, and so I wonder who the villain's going to be, and I wonder, do we need all these other characters when people just want a good Superman? He was going to call it Superman Legacy. Now he's just calling it Superman. Period. I hope he gets a co-writer because sometimes he does the same kind of tropes when he's just writing by himself. He's a great writer, but when you're doing stuff by yourself, you don't catch your own flaws and your own mishaps. That's why I think he needs a good co-writer with him. But I wish him the best. I'm curious to see the movie. I don't know if I'll see it in theaters, but I'm curious about it. We'll see. Time will tell. I don't want to write it off just yet. I don't want ever since um, the Dark Knight trailer back in the day came out. I don't want to write off something before it comes out because you never know. You never know. So I'll probably check it out, man. I like James Gunn, but
I'm not gonna watch it in the theater though. That's not gonna be something. I'll wait till
yeah, I don't know if I'll see it in the theater. To be honest, I don't know. I'll
because
check it out, but
that's
I don't
coming
know.
around the same time that because they're filming right now. It's coming
Right.
on around the same time as the next Batman movie with Robert Pattinson.
Oh, so 26. I thought
Hmm.
Superman was next year, but it's coming out 26. Oh. I mean, I'm not really
Well, that
disappointed. I
dang
don't
writer's
care.
strike. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, and it's crazy if you were a director who was also a writer like James Gunn and I just had a brain fart. The director Matt Reeves. Um, if you were also a writer, you still couldn't write. You could direct some stuff, but you couldn't write during the strike, even if you had the ability to. So it's crazy, crazy that writer strike changed some things, man. But you know, the studios could have ended it early on.
Is there a
Early on.
title for that Batman? Because I think it started. It starts filming now.
I don't know, but I tell you what, there's going to be a the in front of it. DC with their reboots or remakes and putting the in front of everything. The Suicide Squad, the Joker, the Batman.
That's
Like,
okay.
okay.
I see. Originally, it's supposed to be October 3rd of 2025, but things change.
Yeah. Yeah, that
That's
strike
fine. I
changed
think
some
it's going to be
things.
fine. I am curious if they have any kind of yeah. It's just started filming this month. Cool. That's exciting. I
Yeah,
think I think this could rival if the second one's as good as the first one, that could rival Christopher Nolan's.
it could, and there's also a show, the Penguin Show.
Yeah, which I like too. I like that idea.
I, s- I saw the trailer. It didn't really show you much, so I
Yeah.
don't know what to feel. I'm just like, didn't we do this already? A show
But
about
it's not
Gotham without
DC
Batman in it?
DC stuff, like
Nah,
it's its own
yeah, I
thing,
know.
so. And plus the
Yeah, I know.
acting, you have that kind of acting, it's not going to be bad because a guy like that's not going to be in a bad thing.
Who, Colin Farrell?
Yeah. Now,
Have you
there's no
seen his
way.
resume? Oh, okay. I thought you saying now because there was a time in
Yeah,
the
well,
2000 he was
last
he was not batting some
last
good
10
stuff.
years he's been in
Good stuff.
he's getting nods for like Oscar buzz and all that stuff. Like, the you
Yeah.
still needs to see the Banshee of Inisherin.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He's got a new show coming out on Apple TV called Sugar too.
Yes, I want to see actually before I wanted your have you heard about Dark Matter with Jennifer Connelly that's coming out next month on Apple TV and
Yeah,
Joel
what's that about,
Egerton?
man? I heard
Um
about that.
so Dark
Oh, is
Matter,
that the Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Dark Matter. That's the uh. There's a show on Netflix called Dark, and apparently, I heard this is a rumor. I don't know if it's true. I heard it's supposed to be the American version of Dark. Now, I don't know if you saw Dark on Netflix.
I did.
That show, that show was great. That German show. Look, guys,
So it's
if you
based
don't
on a
like
book.
subtitles,
So it's based on a book.
mhm,
So here's the people that's in it: Joel Egerton, Jennifer
mhm.
Connelly, Jimmy Simpson, which everyone
Oh,
is
our
fantastic.
boy Jimmy Simpson.
I love him. Yeah. Elise Braga.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
let's let's see. Does not give you an explanation on what's it about, other than the book. So
Oh,
I
okay.
did not read the book. Let me Google the book plot real
It's
fast.
about a guy named Jason who's abducted into an alternate version of his life.
Oh
To
shoot!
get back to
Yeah.
his true family, he embarks on a harrowing journey to save them from the most terrifying foe imaginable. So this isn't dark. I
No,
guess the
dark is
article
its
was
own
just
thing,
saying. Yeah, I guess the article was just saying it's like Apple TV's version. I mean, like they're a show equivalent to like Dark, kind of like
dude.
their own Dark.
This is wild. So Jason is held in question by scientists. They believe he is Jason from this world, referred to as Jason 2, and the first person to successfully return from a journey in the cube. Jason learns that Jason 2 was his abductor and who came to Jason's world to see what his life would have been like if he had abandoned his career and married Daniela. Wow.
That's crazy. That sounds interesting as hell.
that's that's wild, dude. That's cool.
I'm watching that.
Yeah, that comes out in
May
two and a
8th.
half weeks.
Oh, snap, bro.
Yeah, yeah, man. 3 weeks, not
That's
even.
coming out soon.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm checking that out. I'm checking that
I
out.
feel like Apple TV is really good with shows.
Apple TV's killing it, especially with sci-fi.
Dude, Masters of the Air, which is the World War II bomber regiment, fantastic show.
Hmm.
It's the same people that did the Pacific and uh, Band of Brothers. Fantastic show. You should check that out too. It's very well done. Austin Butler's in there, does a great job. If you
Right,
like that
Austin
type of
Butler's
stuff,
is dope, man.
I liked him in Dune too. Like I liked his portrayal. I just feel like you know I feel like when it comes to movies like that, and you have so many names. It's like I said before. How do you give them enough time for what they deserve?
I feel like he had. Well, I don't know if he had enough time, but his character kind of popped off a screen. He's playing you. He's playing a character that really is supposed to be like that guy who's the antithesis of what the protagonist is. And I felt like he did it well, and I felt like the character was written well. So I don't know if he had enough time, but he definitely popped on screen, and he was memorable for
Yeah,
sure.
but no
You
one
know.
you can't no one can win awards for a movie like that because there's just so much going on. Like there's a reason why no one in Lord of the Rings won an Oscar who was an actor. They won everything else except for acting because there's just too many people to like what do you do? How do you
Oh yeah,
single one person out?
you're definitely right. You're 100% right. Like movies like that, like Dune and Lord of the Rings, when they're shows, if these movies were shows, people would have won awards. You know, like one could argue that these movies should be shows because how many scenes were left on the cutting room floor? Like I guarantee you there's like a 4 hour cut of Dune Part Two. There was we already know there were longer cuts of the Lord of the Rings that you could have chopped up into episodes pretty much. You
And
know,
Peter
so
Jackson, what wants to release the edited like everything edited. It's 3 days worth of stuff he cut, dude. 3 days worth of filming.
so there's even longer versions than the 4 hour versions of those
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
Jesus, bro.
That
How do these?
he so all that stuff he cut right because he said it was days worth. I'm like, dude, that's a lot
Mm.
of film. But it took him a year and some change just to film all this stuff
Yeah, because they filmed all three movies at
together.
one time together.
Yes.
So one day you're doing a scene from movie two, one day you're doing a scene from movie three. Uh, so I guess you could kind of get lost in the sauce, but I just don't understand how these studios um, greenlight these scripts when they know that these scripts are going to be like 4 to 5 hours long. You know, oh, these are just
Longer.
words on the page.
Well,
Yeah, these are words
that's
on
why
the
you pay the
page.
editors. That's why you don't have one editor. You have a team of editors now because there's just so much content to sift through.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. It might be because I'm from the independent field where you have to cut stuff down before you even shoot
Well, yeah,
anything because you can't afford.
you don't have a blank check to worry. You know, you can take your
Exactly.
like there's
Exactly.
it's a different thing.
But I'm like, all these people, do you want to be away from home for a year shooting something? Do you want to be from away from your family working 16-hour days? Like, you could cut this stuff down. Why are you approving these scripts? Like,
Well, that's why
I
Sean
think
Bean was okay
studios
with
just
it
are.
because he died in the first one. He didn't have to worry about the other two.
Yeah, true. He likes doing that stuff, apparently, man. Like, he likes playing characters that get killed. Well, I'm like, these studios must not be reading scripts. They can't be reading these scripts because they just greenlight stuff.
Are you going to watch Rebel Moon out of posterity?
I don't know. I
Do you
think we
want to?
should,
All right, let's
just
do
for
it.
the sake of. Sometimes we talked about this. Sometimes it's good to watch bad stuff to see what not to do. You know? But it's one of those things where I'm like, I'll watch it if I have time.
So
I'm
are
not
all
gonna
of them
make time
made?
for it.
Are all of these movies made already, and he's just releasing them delayed, or what's the deal with it?
That I do not know. I think they're already made. He's just editing them. I think, or I think that he's making them back to back without really a break. But he made sure to make the first one first, the second one second. You know, something like that because it's like Netflix gave him a blank check to do whatever he wants to do in any kind of way, and apparently there's a comic book and stuff, and I'm like, I guess.
Is it
Like,
successful on the business front? Because you can't find that on Netflix. There's no figures to give out.
I don't think it's excuse me. I don't think it's successful because one, it's not in a theater, so you're not making money.
And you can't tell if
Two,
there's signups coming directly from it or not, because how do you measure that?
see, we can't tell. Netflix, who have their own algorithm, I'm sure they can tell, and I guarantee you're not getting new subscribers by Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, his Star Wars ripoff that's not even better than Star Wars. Let's be honest, you know. So
God, that's
I
really
don't,
bad.
Like I don't understand why these streaming services do stuff like that. I don't even know if anybody's done that. Well, Peacock kind of did that with Ryan Johnson, but they did it with a show, and the show's really good. I hear. So it's called Poker Face. So that's different, but I mean, Netflix is all in with Zack Snyder. They're putting all their chips in
You know
on this
what's
guy.
yeah, that's kind of alarming, right? Because we've already talked about how he controls everything. It's not very good. He has to just stick with what he's good with. And it's just I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Like I'm seeing commercials for him. Like yo, this budgeting has to be insane. These
Oh
type of
yeah,
movies when they're dropping all this cash, like marketing and the marketing alone for this budget has to be ridiculous.
oh yeah. It's astronomical. It has to be.
It's
Like,
probably a budget for a whole nother movie with marketing alone. Let's be real.
and I'm like looking at his I'm looking at the behind the scenes, and him and his guys or people who made it are like, we're not afraid to put up the green screens. You know, we put green screens here, and I wake up and Zack Snyder's like, we need to put more green screens. I'm like, yeah, but a green screen just means you're putting more money into CGI. I know Netflix has its own CGI studio, VFX studio, but I'm like, that's
Saves them a
time. If
ton
you
of
can
money.
do it on camera, yeah, true. But I'm like, if you could do that on camera, do it on camera. It takes it's less money to spend. See, I don't know how that works because they own their own VFX house. Did the VFX artists do everything? Do they outsource like most
No,
VFX studios do?
they probably have their own depending on what it is.
Yeah, so I don't know how that works. So I don't know if they're saving or spending all that money on CGI when
Well,
they have their own.
they have to use that so that studio like how many different movies can it house in one time? How many different movies can you make at once with that studio? If you can only do one, are you really how much money are you really saving? Because you're holding up
and
other stuff until that's done.
and they're doing the Netflix shows too. Remember when the last season of Stranger Things came out? They said the Netflix VFX team, some people were pulled off of other shows to finish Stranger Things. So I'm like, oh,
But
geez,
Stranger
like,
Things
is their bread and butter?
yeah, that's their money maker right now, you know? So it's makes sense. I get it.
Yeah, yeah, it does make sense, and I think Netflix is smart in that it has its own VFX house where other studios just
Are they is there VFX in Georgia or California
I don't know. It's probably in Georgia. I don't know.
for taxes and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about that. It might even be in. I hear a lot of VFX houses are in Vancouver too. So yeah, I'm not too sure about that, man.
I gotta
Yeah,
check it.
that would be interesting.
I'll watch it. It's I'm looking for one more show. I'm looking forward to is Rabbit Hole coming back.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Keanu
Rabbit
Reeves,
Hole.
not
Nah, I
Keanu
haven't seen
Reeves.
that.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, Rabbit Hole. Yeah, 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 yeah. I
You know what
don't
I'm
know.
talking about? That show was well done. It was like a
Oh yeah.
24 knockoff, but it was good. It was. I think it's on Paramount.
It might be on. Yeah, it's either in Peacock or Paramount. I always get those mixed up. But Peacock and Paramount got a lot of good stuff on their streaming service, man.
I know they
There's
do.
bro. I don't know if you was a fan of the Spartacus TV series on Stars like I was,
It's okay.
but yeah, for what it was back in the day, it was okay. But there's a new Roman show coming out starring Anthony Hopkins on Peacock,
Mm.
coming out in a week or two.
What's it called?
I don't know, but I don't even know if it has a name. They just showed numbers, Roman numbers. So
You mean
Anthony
Roman
Hopkins.
numerals?
Yes, that's what I meant. Dad brain.
Don't give me that.
You'll see. The older the kid gets, the more brain cells you lose.
I
Those about to die. That's what it's called.
those are about
Those
to die.
about to die.
Got it.
July. Oh no, it's not a couple weeks. It's coming out in July 18th. So I got some time. Got some time.
All right, man. I'm ready for this. What you ready?
What? What are we ready
Glorious
for?
Bastards, bro.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, let's do it.
All right, so just going to ask you straight up: is this the best Quentin Tarantino movie ever?
Get out of my brain. Dude, all since you brought this up to talk about,
Yeah,
all week I've been thinking this might be it for me. like
yeah.
Pulp Fiction, I don't know. Django Unchained, it might
That
be Inglorious Bastards.
has to. Pulp Fiction's good, but Pulp Fiction's just it was a shocking movie of its time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think that's what appealed to so many people was because it was shocking and you didn't have anything like it.
very
But
true.
Quentin Tarantino takes it to another level with the shocking like he takes something that's egregious and shocking historically and he makes a satire of it. And he does it so well while staying historically consistent with how bad everything was.
And even though it's a satire, he still gives serious moments their time. Like some of the biggest critiques of like Marvel is like whenever there's a character development that has to go deeper and darker,
They
you
make a
know,
joke of it.
they make a joke literally. But Tarantino, oh my gosh, yeah, this has to be the best one. Every time I think of this movie, I just think my one of my favorite scenes is with Michael Fassbender when he's in there and they're talking and it's just mundane shit. I mean, this is peak Tarantino. This guy can write anything. He's like one of the best screenwriters, one of my favorite. Like
Ever.
they're just talking about mundane stuff and it slips into serious things and just a simple what is it? Three, he goes like three this or three like that. He does it the wrong way and everything stops and everything just gets quiet and the tension is so thick like and he just does it so well. He can write tension so well and there's so many scenes like this, like even the opening scene with Christoph Waltz. He's playing Hans Landa. He's talking to the guy and he starts off, they're talking about bullshit, he's just being cordial, he's being so nice, and then he's just there's a transition.
Oh,
They're talking
dude,
about like
he automatically just gets evil. He just turns on a different. It's like he put on a different mask, and but you
yes.
can tell that scene. There, there was probably multiple takes of it, but I think that scene was done at once for that very
Mm.
reason. Like they were going to make sure that scene was done all together and it was not edited together. Like you could tell, like this is a very important moment in the very beginning. It sets the whole tone.
Bro, I read that Quentin Tarantino, it took him 10 years to write the script. I believe it. There's a lot of times where I hear some stuff and I'm like, that's bullshit, like Bradley Cooper and the conducting thing. Uh, but I believe it. This script is like perfect. And he he was looking for an actor to play Hans Landa so long that he almost quit doing the movie because he's like, I just can't find the perfect
The
guy for
perfect guy.
this.
Yeah.
Like I wrote a role that no one can play, and then they find Christoph Waltz, and he's like the guy knocks it out the park. He wins the Oscar for this, and it's well deserved. I mean, the way he can slip it, he seems he's not a big guy. He's not a scary looking guy, but the way he just comes off as I'm docile, I'm not threatening, and then he just switches posture. He's like, "Oh, I got you." Like, nah, you're in my trap. Like, yo, it's just the writing, the acting is just perfect, and it's with every character. It's just perfect.
But look, like the high intense like Nazi like high ranking members of the party, they weren't intimidating people. They were smaller size. Like he
True,
embodies that
true.
so well.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because he's German, right? And he can
True.
speak it. Like he just embodies that. Like I made this comment and I said that there's one other person that acts the same way he does, and that's Giancarlo Esposito. They act very similarly in terms of how they convey. They have that mask. Like all of a
Hmm.
sudden everything's good, and then just like that, he is like serious. It's like, are you like a psychopath? Like, how are you able to do that? It's
Yeah, like the way they play villains, where they come off as like they're the nice guy,
yeah.
and then it's like a quick transition, but the way they smoothly transition to that villainous part of themselves, it's like that's why they're like the best in the game at that. That's why Giancarlo Esposito plays every part because he's just so good. Christoph
It's where they
Waltz.
learn too. Like, look, they didn't learn how to act in America. This stuff was in I mean, Esposito is from Denmark, and he did
For
stage
real?
and
I didn't know that.
yeah. So his dad was a Danish, and he was production for stage and shows and stuff.
Oh
So he grew up.
snap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he learned how to do all this stuff in like Denmark. I'm like, that's just a completely different way of like doing things, right? So you can see that like that's not stuff you learn here, you know.
That's so true. It's sad but true.
But that's okay. Every place has its own way, has its own like niche, and
Hmm.
you learn how to do that on stage. You know this as well as anyone. But I've seen stage actors like there's a way how you have to convey your emotion so people feel it and absorb it,
Hmm.
and that's the way to do it. And they convey that on camera so well.
Right, right. And I mean, this movie, I feel like everybody's at the top of their game in this movie. Um, excuse me. Like, and the writing is so good. The cinematography is so good. Like, at 1 second you're laughing, and the next minute your jaws dropped. Yeah, like it's hard for me to talk about this movie because it's flashing in my head as I talk about it, and I'm just in awe. And I think this is peak Quentin Tarantino, and I dare anybody to say anything after this was better. Like, I
Samuel
don't think
Jackson as a
anything.
narrator is great, especially when they're talking
Yeah,
about Hugo Stiglitz, and he starts killing all the Gestapo guys. Like my favorite part's like he's executing all of them. He takes the pillow and starts stabbing the guy 15 times in the face, and then he sticks his fist in the guy's mouth, and he just starts like suffocating. It's like, dude, this guy is just killing like high-ranking members of the SS, right? And it's funny, but it's like these are nasty, evil guys that he's killing,
right.
and we're laughing at this. Like, how do you do this so well?
Yeah, I mean Quentin Tarantino has a way where he could just like dance along the line of going too far and not going far enough. Like the guy, he's just a master at that. And then he pulls it off with this amazing dialogue. And we talked about before how Christopher Nolan knows how to pick which people to play which roles. I think Quentin Tarantino is a master at that too, man. He could just pick people up and be like, you know what, you should be in this role. You should be in this role. Like, I want this guy to play this guy. Like, it's perfect. Like, I don't know what can be said about this movie. Like, I don't know what could have been done better. I don't know. I, is this a 10 out of 10? I don't believe there's a perfect movie, but is this a perfect movie? He's made great
It's
things,
fascinating
Kill
because it's
Bill and
it's
stuff.
long.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that you think wouldn't be successful, it is successful. It breaks it up into chapters like a chapter book.
Yeah,
It's
that's like his signature thing,
there's
breaking things
three
up.
different storylines converging, which never really works out right because it's like there's just it gets
I love that
forced.
too.
It's forced most of the time to where it's like they're matching when they should never have met up at the end, and this matches up perfectly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the casting alone, like we talked about, how like Christopher Nolan can get anyone he wants, and then we're like, wait, Ford Francis Coppola can get whoever he wants, and he just finds ways to just put them together. Quentin Tarantino can get whoever he wants and anything.
Now,
And
we talked earlier. Do you think that enough characters got their due?
yes,
Because you talked about these ensemble casting in films.
yes, because and that's what the chapters help out with.
Right.
Everyone gets a good proper intro, and then it kind of like moves along, and then people die, right? Like Brad Pitt's
Mm.
like, let's be real, Brad Pitt's like the guy, right? He's the and the guy who played
Gorlami.
uh, my favorite part of the movie is when Christoph Waltz and Brad Pitt know each other and they're pretending to be themselves, or like, he's pretending to be Italian, and he like, I want you to repeat your name one more time, and he like bites his lip knowing his cover's blown, and he whispers, he's like, Coralami, and he knows his cover's blown. That's the best part, dude. He's like, this
Right,
guy
right.
knows who we are. And then you add the fact that Eli Roth, who plays the Bear Jew, is just the most
Mm.
insane character you can ever write for anyone.
Yeah. Bear Jew. Can you even say that nowadays? The Bear Jew.
Yes, you can, because people don't care about Jews. But
Especially since it's in a World War II movie, you can say the Bear Jew.
yeah, dude. But them just saying their names because they don't speak any Italian, they just do this.
And even Diane Kruger's character, I forget her name, but she's just watching them be horrible at their covers, and she's just like, "We're all gonna fucking."
Brad Pitt's southern accent from Tennessee is so bad that his Italian like doesn't even mask it. He's like Garabon. I'm like, oh god, this guy. You you can't pretend you're Italian for 5 seconds, dude.
And just Diane's face every time they talk, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die. This isn't gonna work." It's just, and she just has to smooth everything over. She's like, "Oh," she just has to be her charming self. Like, "Oh, don't worry about my leg. It was a skiing accident. Don't kill me." It's like, it's just so good, man. I love it, and how they flip it at the end on Hans Landa. And then, even though it's happened multiple times in the movie, Quentin Tarantino lets it breathe and lets the audience see it again, where he's like, "So, when we take you to the stage, you're going to get off scot free. You're going to take off that uniform, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to burn it. I'll never wear it again." We don't like that. And they just
Yeah,
go through the whole spiel again.
we figured you say that. We don't like that around here.
And at the end, he's just like, "Yeah, I think that's my best work." Yeah, like, I freaking love it. I love this movie. I don't know anything bad to say. I don't think. Do you think because it's such a good movie that it kind of was detrimental to his professional career?
No, because he did other movies after that were good.
I kind of feel like Quentin Tarantino. They try to make him out as a joke after this. Stuff started coming up online in the past like 10 years of interviews where he's just saying wild stuff.
Because he's not part of the prototypical Hollywood it crowd.
Hmm.
He's not.
He's always been that weird guy, but maybe his weird is his superpower
No,
that
100%.
helps him to be the filmmaking powerhouse that he is.
Hateful Eight, was good too. I haven't really seen, and he's doing Star Trek. He's in the middle of doing that, so I mean, that's weird too.
I don't know how that's going to come out though. I'm very curious to see
I don't know how
Star
that's gonna work.
Trek by Quentin Tarantino.
Well, it's
It would be
because
strange if it just turned out to be a straightforward Star Trek movie. It would be odd.
it's part of that whole multiverse, like alternate reality thing that J.J. Abrams said in the first movie. He can kind of do whatever he wants with it. Like he can make it into a Star Trek episode where they're on a planet where everyone's uber aggressive, so everyone cusses and kills each other, that type of thing. Like you can make anything out of it, right? So
Mhm.
I'm sure it's going to be weird for sure, very violent, you know.
Right. I mean, maybe that's what Star Trek needs. Maybe it needs a little shakeup.
I'm
A
okay with
little,
that.
at first I wasn't, but I'm like, It might need this, man. It might need to shake things up to get people talking about Star Trek again in a different light,
Maybe
so to
Quentin
speak.
Tarantino needs to do Star Wars too.
Anything will say Star Wars needs something. I mean, dear God, it needs something. It probably does need a Tarantino like give me a Star Wars and Glorious Bastards where the Empire are the Nazis and the rebels are the people fighting against the Nazis, and give me that. Give me a Moff Tarkin like character, but he's like Hans Landa. Give me that. you know, that would actually be pretty dope because um, I think George Lucas based the Empire on the old school British Empire with colonialism and everything like that. Just do that. Quentin Tarantino, give us the blood, give us the guts, give us the cussing, give us everything, but put it in Star Wars. I wonder if Star Wars would turn down Quentin Tarantino because Quentin Tarantino's doing Star Trek right now because he called it out. He said he wanted to do it. He's always been a fan. So you're not going to turn that guy down. I wonder what would happen if this Star Wars movie. I mean, if this Star Trek movie is successful, and then he's like, you know what I want to do? Star Wars. Tell me I can't. And I wonder what Bob Iger's going to do.
Well, Bob Iger said that after his win last week or the week and a half from the board thing, he says like the woke stuff's over. We're going to make everything profitable and stuff again and fun. And I'm like,
Bullshit.
well, it's like, well, yeah, right. It's like, how are you going to do that? You need to have guys like this just come in and be a disruptor, dude. Like change what you have done for so long. And that's why Tarantino's never going to do a franchise. He's never going to do sequels because that's not in his style.
No, he's on to the next thing. He wants to tell stories, and I feel like a story always pops up in his head. And it takes some time to write, and I'm not mad at it because
Can
the
sci-fi
results are
benefit
amazing.
from him? That's the thing. Like sci-fi has a very specific place. Like how do you do a good sci-fi movie with his way of doing things?
Well, sci-fi has made is recently in the past like 10 years has really kicked off to different things, right? Where
Yeah.
we have sci-fi everywhere from Guardians of the Galaxy to you know Galaxy Quest to what's that show we watch on Apple TV? Um, for All
Foundation.
Mankind, Foundation. Like there's different like not genres, but different tastes of sci-fi that's happening. So I think Quentin Tarantino could, make a great sci-fi movie, and he probably will. And it's different for him because his movies are always kind of grounded in reality. So it's going to be interesting to see him do Star Trek, where there's laser weapons and ships that go at the speed of light and aliens and stuff like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see, and maybe, just maybe, it might dethrone Inglorious Bastards because Inglorious Bastards is like peak for me,
I
peak
agree.
Tarantino.
I
I
agree.
don't think it gets better. It hasn't gotten better for me,
The
honestly.
characterization of Nazis like as a whole is just so funny to me. Like Adolf Hitler's like wears a cape, like he didn't wear a cape. Just like stuff like that where you knew what kind of person they were, and he just makes it. His characterization of them is just so well done
But they're still villainous. Like they're
and
still a
believable. Like,
threatening.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
like
believable and
you had to go
threatening.
look it up. It's like, did Hitler really wear a cape? Because that's something he would have done. Like that type of thing.
Yeah, he definitely would have worn a cape. But yeah, like they're still threatening. Like this guy knows how to teeter the line, and silly versus threatening, and calm versus scary. Like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be cool to see Mr. Spock or whatever. I wonder if he's going to use the traditional Star Trek cast, or if he's going to go in a different direction
So
in the
my
past or in the future.
understanding is that he was bringing a lot of the people who did the other movies back, and Chris Pine was like in a
Oh,
contract, like spat with him on it.
ooh. So is this going to be a sequel to the Kelvin universe that J.J. Abrams did?
Yes.
That's going to be interesting because those movies had their own kind of style to them. So you know, when you hire Tarantino, you let him cook. You don't you don't try to put another cook in the kitchen. You let him cook. So we'll see how that plays out. If it feels disjointed or not. Because the last one was.
So apparently he's not doing it anymore. And this is as of like 3 months ago. Because this next movie, his 10th movie, he's done making movies. That's what he said. And he didn't want Star Trek to be his last movie.
Makes sense. I'm not mad at it. Do your thing, bro. If you're gonna go out in your own way and not rely on somebody else's franchise.
I agree
That's
with
how I
that.
see it.
Me too. Especially if it's your last one. Do what you
Yeah.
want. Yeah, like no need to do this. That's insane.
And it's crazy to think he's only done 9 movies. It's crazy. In what, 20 years or something like that?
Longer, dude. Reservoir Dogs came out in the early 90s, dude.
Oof. I forgot how old I am for a second. Oh, damn. That's true. I used to love Reservoir Dogs. I mean, I still do. It's just, I mean, Inglourious Basterds is Inglourious Basterds. Doesn't get any better. But yeah,
I don't know what to say else.
that's
I mean, that's pretty much good. It's pretty good to me.
pretty perfect. So that was another good one, my nomads. I hope you learned something. If you haven't checked it out, watch Inglourious Basterds. If you haven't checked it out, what's wrong with you, man? Go check it out. But yeah, be creative. Peace.